I'm just going to give it a minute or two so people can come into the room. This was the Facebook page. Hi, this is Arlene Zomer from Honeybrook, Pennsylvania. I'm going to go over sharpening techniques right now. And let me make sure this is all where it should be here. Okay, there we have one person coming in. I'm just going to give it a couple more seconds here and then I'll start. Welcome. And until they can find me a little bit here. So, well, anyway, I'm going to start and hopefully people will catch on as we go. Many of you have knives. I have a lot of pocket knives that I use. I don't use the stationary knives anymore. If you're a beginner, you should use the stationary knives. They're much more, they're safer for people that are beginning to carve. But a lot of people have a problem sharpening their tools. And one of the things in sharpening your tools is having the right equipment. And what do I mean by that? Well, you need to have a strop, which is a piece of leather. I know this looks really beat up, but it's a leather on two sides. This keeps your stuff honed up. Hello, Richard. I do have your knife ready. I will send it out probably tomorrow. It took me a little more time to get it done. So, but if you have a strop, that's a good beginning for beginners to use. But a lot of people use the strop the wrong way, and I'm going to share with you a couple of things that are my little secrets in sharpening. One of the things about sharpening is if I can get a pencil here, I'm going to draw what I'm talking about because it's better to show you this way than to hi Elizabeth, to show you this way. When you're looking at the knife from the end point, like looking down the blade, like it's pointed at you, but this is upside down, right? The blade should look like that, okay? You want this as flat as possible, and your bevels are not supposed to be seen, or if they should be pretty lengthy. The problem with the bevel is it doesn't allow you to cut into the wood. So that's one of the secrets, is making sure that bevel is gone. Now I have one here. This is a new one that I have to revamp for a person. See the bevel here? It's right here. That's the short bevel right there. It's really, really short. And it's not that it's not sharp. It is sharp, but when you're doing these sharpening these tools, I usually take it to the stone first, a very fine stone. I try to get rid of that bevel from about here over to the end. I first cut some of this off first, then shape it, and then I go ahead and I start sharpening. Now this particular knife, that bevel is really short, so the first thing I try to do is get rid of that bevel on both sides. Sometimes I'm successful with it, other times I'm not. And it just seems like this one is the new blue one that I have. And you see the bevel, you can see it right there. That bevel is long enough. I like it longer, and I try to just grind this portion down a little bit more right here, so it's more flat. So what you want to do when you look at the end of the knife, it should look this way. Instead of the way you get it, it comes this way. Okay, so this is what you're trying to achieve with that. The other thing that I have found is if the bevel is too short or you strop it too much on a strop, and I'm going to teach you the right way to do it, or the correct way of doing it. What happens a lot of times, you round off your edge. So if you're looking again from the end of it, your point here at the top actually starts to round up like so. Okay? that makes it hard for somebody to carve, because what it will do, it will roll off. It will roll off your piece. Now, of course, I have one here. What I mean by that is, if it's a good bevel, it's going to dig into your piece, and it's not going to just like roll off like this. When they roll off like that, then you know you have a rounded bevel. But if you push it in and it goes into the wood, then you're doing very well with the bevel, and you're keeping it good and sharp. Now, when I'm going to take you to the machine in a second here, I'm going to try to hold the camera and to do it at the same time, just to give you an idea. But that is the most important thing, is that bevel and that rounded edge. Of course, you want a little burr when you're sharpening these. You want a little burr that when you put your thumb across like this, you'll feel a little burr. You want to hone that off either with a good big buffing wheel or a leather strop. Now, my 2 leather strops, I ruined both of them on this new machine. I went in the opposite direction, and I ripped right into it. And one broke the blade off of my knife. It was this type of knife. And the other one didn't. It was with the bigger knife, the newer knife. And it worked out pretty well. So what I would tell you to do, if the bevel is, correct the bevel. It's probably the first thing you want to try to do. And that takes time and patience to do. You can take any kind of maybe 1000 grit sandpaper or like they use for vehicles, put it on a block, and you can try to hone it by hand that way. You can try to resharpen it that way. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. If I don't have my electric stuff with me, then I go to the manual portion of it. But if you have it really good and flat, this is really the way it should look. Okay, and that is just will cut beautifully in this stuff if you have it nice and flat. The other issue that a lot of people have is with the strop. Now, a lot of people strop it like they do when they're at a barber shop. They're going this way and they're turning it and they're turning it. So what happens, I haven't figured out how to use this camera in this position yet, but when they strop it, they're turning it, right? And they're hitting that edge. And what happens with that is, if you do that too often, that's where you get your rounded edge. And that's what happens. So what you really want to do is lay it flat on here and pull it up. And then bring it up, bring it back down, pull it up. And I would do it like maybe 5 or 6 times on one side, and then flip it over. You gotta put it nice and tight, flat, and you may want to just lift it up a tiny bit, but what you want to do is not roll it on this or on either side, because you'll round up that blade. Somebody asked me about sharpening these little V-tools, okay? And they're really tough to do. They take a lot of practice to do them. I do them on a wheel now. I do it on a little sanding disc belt sander. And these are really, really tough to take care of. There is a little notch there. I know this camera is not the best with trying to get this automatic thing, but when you do this, you do one side first, and you do the other side on the back side, and then you try not to have a point at the end. And I'm going to go more into depth with that a little bit later. So let me show you. We're going to move to the machine. Now, I don't know how this is going to work because I don't have a tripod for it. I thought I had one, but it wasn't. I couldn't switch it. So we're going to take this one here, and I'm going to show you how I lay it on the. Usually, I take a stone and I take that bevel out, And once you take that bevel out, that's the key. The bevel is the key to it all, is making sure you get rid of the bevel and making sure you don't have the things rounded, all right, when you sharpen. So let's take this. I'm going to grab this for a second. I'm going to take it. Let me stand up here. And we're going to take it over here. I'm going to unplug my one thing here. All right, so this is the machine I had bought. I don't make of the Amazon. You can buy it on Temu cheaper. It works out pretty good. So what we'll do is we'll turn this on, right, like so. I have it on the lowest setting it can go right now. And what I often do is I have this on a tripod so I can move it around. So let me open this up a little bit and bring this up. Perfect, right there. All right, so you want it to go away from you. So when you're using one of these, you want it to go in the opposite direction. So you can stop it and you can go in the other direction. Let me put the microphone near me here. So okay. So what we do is you flip it on, going away from you, and I'll take the knife. And now this is 1000 grit, but this is how you get rid of that bevel. Now it takes a long time to do that. Yes, I still use the little wheels. I have one here that's the buffer that came off of that wheel, and there's a buffer that comes with this, and it comes with a stone, so you can use either one. So as you're using this, you know, you make sure you go in the right direction. So since I want to go in this away from me, I'll flip it the other way and turn it the other way. And this is how I get it sharpened up. Now this is only part of what I'm doing. It's very quick, but trying to get rid of that bevel takes a long time. I don't have a big enough grit on that, but this is what I use to do that with. You can use a regular stone. It works just as well. So, and then what I often do, when you are done with this, you take it, when you get that little burr on it, you want to go to your wheel here and just, you know, and I put a black compound on it. This is the one I actually use for and that really just does a nice job keeping that blade as sharp as I can. The secret to it is the bevel. Now let me go back here if I can. I'll grab this little. When you're doing this little V-tool, what you want to do is lay it nice and flat. And you're going to run it a few times, and you're going to run it again on the other side. And the burr will come up in the middle. And when the burr comes up in the middle, then I take it to a strop, and I'll show you what I do with it. Actually, you don't really have to take it to the strop. Once you do both sides, you kind of look at it and see if it's, let's see if I get something dark here. There we go. No. Right there. You don't want it too uneven. You know, one side to the other. You don't want it really uneven. So once you get that done on both sides, then I take it to the wheel. And I can do that here. I'll do one side, I'll do the other, and then I'll take it to the side to get rid of that burr in the middle. And that usually works pretty well. If you use it that way, that usually takes it off pretty well. So there is a little bit of a challenge trying to get that corner done. Some people round it a little bit. It's supposed to be slightly rounded when you take care of it. So you may want to just take it back to this here and just go back and forth a little bit to get that little burr off, and then take it back to this wheel here. Now I'm going to go back to this and show you a couple other things that I do with the V-tool. Let me come back this way. See if I can get hooked back up here. Okay. I'm trying not to turn anything off at the same time of doing this. The other thing we end up doing a lot of times is with the V-tool. Let me get my tripod back here. This thing is not the most stable thing I've ever owned. For some reason, I'm way off. Okay. When you want to hone this up, all I do is I take it on one side and I lay it flat and I pull it towards me, away from me. You're always doing the blade away from the leather. Okay. And then flip it over and do the other side. And then there's a spot on mine here that I have a pretty good square piece right in here. Okay. And I take it and I do the middle with it a few times. And it should work out pretty well. In fact, I was doing the snowman today. Not the snowman, the penguin. And it should cut fairly nice. Oh yeah. So, and you know, that's basically it. You want to get rid of the bevel. You want to make sure that you get the burr on your knife. And the buffing wheel will take care of that burr. So will a leather wheel. And I don't have any leather wheels available right now. I haven't made any for a while. And in fact, I don't even have one for myself. So I hope to get some here in the next week or so, get a few of them done. And because you can put a leather wheel on the left hand side of that machine, or you can put a stone or a buffing wheel, either one. Okay, so that's pretty well it. There isn't a lot to share with the knives other than making sure you get rid of the bevel and that you don't round it when you sharpen it. You know, keep them. I always put my finger on it and then pull it away from me, and then bring it back up. If you have any questions, you can put it in the comments. I'll try to answer them online on Facebook for you. I think next week we'll make a penguin, and I think that will be fun to do. Thank you, Richard. I'm glad that you use it all the time. It's great that you've done that. This is the new one. Richard is going to get one of these. It's ready to be packed and shipped out, and it has 4 blades on it. So where I got the machine. Now, I did get one, the big machine that you saw over there, well, the mini grinder that I have, the belt sander. I got that at Amazon, but you can also get it on Temu for like $20 less. I didn't trust Temu because I didn't know. You've got to be really careful when you look at Temu. It's a little confusing. I buy it with the intentions of not sending anything back, so you want to be careful of that. But I bought a couple of things here lately, and most of it has been fine. I bought a couple of 21-volt tools that are lighter than the Ryobi tools, and I got one with a pruner and a pole that I can cut some branches off, which is really nice. But other than that, you know, I don't know what else. It takes practice, a lot of practice to get these knives. Sometimes I can spend 40 minutes on a blade trying to get it just the way I want it to be done. And I will say some blades work a little better than others. It's just the way it works. It doesn't always mean anything, but and I'm not saying it's the steel or anything else, but I will tell you, these knives are not, they do not lock. Somebody asked me that before, and I will tell you, it's really a wonderful little tool. It's nice. I can take it with me, fold it up, and put it in my pocket and take it with me. But if you're a beginner, I wouldn't use it. Not right away. Until you get used to how to cut with the push and pull method and all that on these. So we'll do this one next week. Hopefully I'll have this one painted for you. And I think we'll do another carving next week. I think that's probably of interest for most people, and more than the painting. And I'm trying to come up with some new ideas. I haven't been brainstorming that too much lately. So I hope you got something out of this. And, you know, again, the bevel and how you strop is very, very important not to have that rounded edge on your knife. That's where it starts rolling off and not digging into your stuff. So enjoy the rest of the evening. This is relatively short, but it's to the point. Okay, folks, have a good night, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.